Marijuana comprises more than half of all Texas drug arrests, and 97% of those were for possession of 2 ounces or less. Just for context, an ounce makes about 60 marijuana cigarettes. El Paso Police Chief Greg Allen says those state statistics hold true in El Paso. He says those arrested for marijuana possession usually have no prior drug convictions or criminal offenses.
You'd be surprised. I mean, some of the people you think are your pillars of the community, you find out that they're drug users, casual drug users.
Allen says most of the marijuana arrests going down in El Paso are for small quantities classed as misdemeanors, punishable by up to 180 days in prison and a fine up to $2,000. But Allen says police often give violators a warning instead.
I can tell you personally, when I was on the streets, actually, patrolling, I never made an arrest for a joint. I'd make them tear it up. That was more painful for the individual right there when they're having to get rid of the cigarette than it would be to get arrested because they wanted it that badly.
Can law enforcement exercise discretion and not arrest someone? Sure, I bet they could, but it's not. But you still look at the data.
Texas State Representative Joe Moody points to 2013 FBI data. 70,000 Texans were arrested for marijuana possession, and the vast majority of them are under 30 years old. As a former prosecutor, Moody says he has seen the futures of young offenders destroyed by the criminal sanction that comes with a possession offense.
So if they're convicted of that offense, you're looking at, if you had a financial aid, grants, things like that, those can be off the table for you. Federal student aid is definitely off the table. Getting a job is going to be extremely difficult because those criminal background checks are going to show up, and many jobs actually restrict hiring if you have drug crime history. Renting an apartment. So anything a young person is needing to be doing to kind of get on their feet, get their life going, all those things can be derailed by a minor conviction.
So last legislative session, Moody introduced a bill to remove the criminal penalty for possessing less than 1 ounce of marijuana.
We prosecute drug offenses by weight. And so we took the lowest grade offense today under criminal law, cut it in half, and made that a civil sanction.
With the civil penalty, offenders would have faced a $250 fine, potential community service, and drug counseling. But the bill failed. Decriminalization is already happening in some parts of Texas, but Moody's bill would have made it state law. El Paso County District Attorney Jaime Esparza says criminal convictions can crush an offender's future and career. But he says there are programs in El Paso that already allow offenders to walk away from possession charges with clean records. He says changing the criminal penalty to a civil one would remove the deterrent to marijuana use.
There are consequences to committing a crime. And where's the balance between can we correct your behavior, keep you from committing the crime in the future? Can we do that? And can we do it in a smart way where there's consequences and you can still have a productive life?
But contributing, productive, and employable members of society is also a key concern for the Texas Association of Business and the El Paso Chamber of Commerce. And both organizations, along with the ACLU and the KT Party, have endorsed Moody's decriminalization bill. Like Moody, these groups are concerned about what Texas marijuana policy is doing to the employability of the state's workforce.
There is a class of young people that are becoming unemployable, and that's not good for the Texas economy. So if you're trying to you've got a work order on something, you have to hire a certain amount of people, but there's a restriction on drug convictions. So now it makes it hard to fill that job. Is that the best way for us to run our policy? If they're perfectly capable otherwise, and you have a remote conviction for a low-level drug offense, do you want to keep them from getting a job? Probably not. That's not really good for the economy as a whole.
Moody's bill failed by a slim margin during the session. It did get bipartisan support, and it's the farthest any marijuana decriminalization bill has ever made it through the Texas legislature. Moody says he's developing a revised version of the bill for the next session. For KRWG, I'm Simon Thompson.